Hey free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. Okay, today let's test out Farrah and let's just see what she's capable of. Okay, so first, let's take a look at her skills and we're going to explore a little bit more about how potentially powerful she can be and what she can do and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so Farrah, you can see that the way I built her is a little bit special, a little bit different from how you would normally build your DPS aspects. You can see that I have very little crit rate on her, and in fact, you may not even need any crit rate at all just because of what she can do. And a really good thing to note is you probably don't even need any skill ups on her at all. Now the thing is, the skill ups, they're definitely going to improve her DPS output by a lot. In fact, by as much as 50%. It's almost 50%, which is insane. Let's just compare the multiplier growth to something more old school. Like let's say Liling, right? Take a look at his multipliers here. From 30%, this only goes up to 38%. This is not even 30%. I think it's probably not even 30% in terms of his damage output growth. But for Farrah, there is a very big difference over here. It's almost 50%. So this is the impact. But you can see that all of her skills, they only increase the damage output that she does by a significant amount nonetheless, but it only increases DPS output and it lowers your cooldowns. And that's it. So I think in general, you may not even need to have any skill ups on her unless you want her to deal more damage, but that is that. So let's take a look at her skills real quick. So tight slash gains attack up for 2 turns, attacks one enemy twice, damage per hit is 60% of attack up to 78%. And if the enemy is afflicted with freeze, deals splash damage to 2 enemies. Splash is 30% of attack. Now moving on to a second skill, inflicts freeze on all enemies for 1 turn, and then you attack all enemies twice. So the order of this taking place is very important. So you freeze first, and then you attack. Now the damage is up to 72%, which is, like I said, it's almost 50% additional attack, additional damage at least. And each hit inflicts defense down for 1 turn, and she has a passive effect over here, which applies globally. We are going to explore this in just a bit. So Farrah's attack against enemies with freeze are guaranteed to land a critical hit. This is massive, dude. Now next, Stormy Waves, her third skill, dispels 2 buffs from each enemy, inflicts freeze on all enemies for 1 turn, and speed down for 2 turns. Pay attention to the order over here. You strip buffs, you freeze, you land speed down, and then you attack all enemies for 2 turns. We are going to prove this in just a little bit. Okay, so the damage per hit is up to 96%, which is, like I talked about before, this is a 192% multiplier, which is the biggest in the freaking game right now. The biggest AoE damage dealing skill in the game right now. Then Farrah gains synergy for 1 turn. Passive gains synergy for 1 turn at the start of the round, and if Farrah has synergy at the start of her turn, dispels all control effects. So even if you stun her, that's it. She's just going to get out of it, right? And if she has synergy after taking a hit, her AP plus 25% triggers once per turn. This changes with like R2 onwards, right? But we're not going to be too bothered about her R2 because I think at R0 she's pretty good. She's really good at R0 in fact. Okay, so this is what synergy does. It's undispellable, immune to AP down, and damage taken minus 40%. So this further protects her from like incoming nukes and all that in case you do not move first or in case something else attacks you. This is probably going to keep you alive, and she is going to be very dangerous, very, very powerful. Okay, and she has increased all allies attack by 30%, universal attack lead. Very nice. Now let's take a look at practice in the training VR Battlegrounds, right? So let's see what she's all about. So I say and I stress a lot on the order of her skills taking place. Oh my god, they're faster than me, rip. Now the reason why I stress so much on that is because of the passive over here, right? Farrah's attacks against enemies with freeze are guaranteed to land a critical hit. So you notice that my crit rate right now is I think 25%, right? And if you use our third skill, it should freeze first before dealing damage, right? And you see that, all the crits. Do you see the crits? All the crits on the enemies who are frozen. This is what she can do. She freezes before she deals damage. So she's always gonna crit. She's always guaranteed to crit unless you're up against experts like Teva and all that kind of stuff. This is a different story. But take a look at the second skill again, right? You freeze and then you attack all enemies. Full crit! Even though I have like 25% crit rate on her. So that was not RNG, that was not luck at all. That is just how powerful she is. Now, this is not all. Let's actually compare her DPS output with another Esper who is pretty much similar in concept, and that Esper is Gaius. Because Gaius can strip, he can also deal a lot of AoE damage. So let's actually use Gaius here, test out his DPS, and then use Gaius equipment on Farrah just to see just potentially how much damage they can do, the difference and all that. But of course, there is elemental disadvantages and all that, so I'm gonna try to mitigate it as much as possible. I mean, for the most part, we just need to ensure that we crit on this one guy, and when using Farrah, we just need to ensure that we crit on this guy over here, and that's it. Okay, so we're gonna use our second skill here. Boom! 89,000, right? 89,000, very nice. I think that was a full crit. Now let's compare the same equipment set onto Farrah and see the difference in DPS. Okay, so we're just gonna go to presets and I'm just gonna equip Gaius' entire set onto her, right? All of this just to show you guys that I am using Gaius equipment on Farrah, and you see that her DPS output is insane. She has almost 3,000 extra attack. She has plus 225% crit damage, and she has like almost no crit at all. Fantastic, perfect. Alright, so here we can drop the Farrah and we're just gonna max and ensure that we have like max skill ups and all that so that we're comparing 2 for 2, right? Okay, so let's test out the difference in their DPS. Now, we do not have an attack lead at all. Okay, we're not using her for the attack lead, so we're not cheating in that sense, although it should be noted that she does have the attack lead as well. Okay, so we're going to use a third skill, and I think we're going to slow this down. And we're just going to make sure that a few things need to happen, right? So we need to freeze enemies. So if we fail to freeze, then we're not going to crit. And on the other hand, we need to make sure that we fully crit this guy over here. So we might need to do this a couple of times. Hopefully not. Okay, so we failed to freeze a couple of enemies here, right? So we have to do this again. But you can kind of see that there is an issue here, which is she needs to freeze in order for her DPS to be strong. Wait, what? Wait. Did we finally do it? Okay, so I had to do this so many times. I might need to watch the replay again. Just give me a sec. Okay, so after reviewing the recording, I did notice that we only did about 62,000 damage, but if we fully critted the enemy in front, because we still landed 2 misses after freezing him, if we fully critted the wind type enemy here, I mean the inferno type enemy here, that would have been about 70,000 damage, which is still less than Gaius. Now, the reason why the damage was less than Gaius, even though Gaius has 150% multiplier, is because Gaius also has some additional multipliers in his... Right, deals extra damage when attacking, extra damage 8% of target's max HP, up to 50% of Gaius attack. Okay, so Gaius is still incredibly broken, right? But the thing is, she was able to deal pretty significant DPS nonetheless. But the major downside to that, right, the major downside to using her is clearly that you need to freeze the enemy. So the thing is, I had to rerun this about 10 plus times just to ensure that we fully freeze every single one of the enemies and then land our critical hits as well, which we even still failed at the end. But that was probably as much as I was willing to test because we had to ensure that so many different things hit, right? And you notice that just going by the Inferno Esper here, you notice that there are 3 chances for you to miss, not 2 chances because you have 2 hits. So the first chance of you missing is landing the freeze, the second chance of you missing is landing a first attack, and the third time of you missing is landing a second attack. Now, with that said, does that mean that she is a little bit too dependent on her freezing capabilities? I would say slightly, but does that make her bad? No, I don't think so. So I do feel like she is still really strong because the extra DPS that comes from a kit is just additional DPS. For the most part, she is a controlling Esper with some significant DPS tied to her kit. But of course, the thing is, if you fail to freeze, then you will not do any damage at all. So this is the way that I would recommend you to build Farrah in PvE content. It is to run her with the Ocean set and maybe the Recurve set just for a little bit more accuracy. In case you're like dealing with stuff like in the Infinity Tower, for example, that is one of the areas where she will shine in a lot because she has a lot of freezing in her kit and she has good DPS as well, which is always nice. And she has 2 AoE freezers, one being her third skill, one being her second skill. She has defense breaks as well, she has slow debuff, she has a lot of good control, and of course on top of that she has a self-attack up buff and whatever on her first skill, right? But in terms of PvP, I would not recommend you to run her with the Ocean set. Instead, what I might recommend is just go all out offense. Just want to make sure that your first hit deals as much damage, or at most Astral Proc into your second skill, which I also wouldn't recommend. It's like completely RNG based. So maybe stuff like the Thunder set is going to be awesome. The Wind set is also going to be really good if you want her to be fast. You can also use the Wall set on her, which is totally fine. But I do feel like maybe the Thunder set is the best. Maybe, right? Who knows? Depending on how you're playing her, because if you're running a debuff comp, then maybe the Calamity set might be a little bit better for her. Okay, so now in terms of content in this game, thus far I have used her quite extensively in tower content, and by tower content I'm talking about Infinity Tower, and I'm also talking about the brand new Calamity Island. So I can't show you right now, but in the Wind type Calamity Island, I have just been using her in one of those teams and she has been just cleaning the floor super easily. I mean, of course, the enemies here are a little bit lower on level, but the DPS output that she's able to do is tremendous. So she's excellent in the Howling Pillar, no questions asked. Now, in terms of Infinity Tower, she's just a very typical controller. So if you were running Espers like Sienna to begin with, then she is going to be a perfect replacement because she deals good damage. She has a lot of freeze on her kit. And I mean, okay, she's probably not a replacement because they do a little bit different things because Sienna is strictly a support. But let me just show you one run over here. Okay, so let's see whether is she enough to control on her own. right? I mean, you have to understand that she is a DPS Esper with significant control in her kit. I'm sorry, I'm lagging a little bit. Okay, so Clara push AP, very nice. We're gonna swap some AP, nice, nice, nice. And okay, I'm cheating. Okay, I know I'm using a Nusi here. This is not Nusi showcase. Stop complaining. Okay, and we want to see how many freezes we can land, especially when you're up against Unas, right? So the moment you land a freeze on Unas, he's not gonna be able to buff immunity on his team, which is what we need. So can we see it? Freeze. There we go. This is epic, dude. So they have the slow debuff. Well, at least some of them have the slow debuff. They have the freeze on every single one of them, and that's it. We can spam this way. So with the Ocean set, we are able to spam a lot more. And I guess we can top up with more stuns here. Very nice. Okay, we only got one stun. RIP. But we still have our second AoE attack on Farrah here, right? Okay, we are not going to use our second skill from Nusi to cooldown reset one of our allies. We're going to use it on Farrah when her turn comes around again. So yeah, push everyone back. And we are going to freeze again, right? Can we see some freezes? Okay, not bad. Okay, 3 freezes, they are pretty good, alright? And these 2, they need to be stunned. We can use Ashley over here. Boom! Okay, RIP, Ashley, you suck. What the heck? Okay, but I think we still have this, right? I mean, in terms of control, we have this in the bag. And now we can cooldown reset her. We can continue freezing again. This is super freaking fun, dude. This is insane. Okay, so in terms of tower content, she is very good. Very, very good. Okay, goddamn, that took a long time. Okay, so I think to finish off this video, right, I mean, the questions that you guys are keen to know is, should you or should you not be pulling for Farrah? Okay, so I think in terms of PvE content, she is going to excel a lot in the Calamity Island. So if you're thinking of pushing a Calamity Island, she might be essential, especially in a 3-man team, because you don't have a lot of like different Espers, right? So you definitely need to get as many of the same type as you can, which is wind type. And in this case, Farrah not only is a wind type, but she's a AoE control, AoE DPS, AoE defense break, AoE freeze, AoE slow. Did I just say all that? Okay, whatever. She has a lot jam-packed into her kit, which makes me feel like she is really good in terms of that kind of PvE content, which is content where there is a lot of waves, you need to freeze them, you need to kill multiple enemies at once. Then yes, she is going to do very well in those content. She's also going to do very well in PvP, which is primarily going to be your point war and your knockout. Now, does that mean that she is not relevant in other content? I have yet to figure out whether that is going to be true, but I think for the most part, in terms of like bossing stuff, like you have your Sentinel Hunt, I mean your Falsetto Fantasy, she's probably not going to be that good over there because you're not going to be freezing stuff, so you're not going to be critting at all. So that is a major setback in her kit. You need to face off enemies where you can freeze. If not, there's probably no go. So that is that for PvE and PvP settled. In my opinion, I think that she is very well worth pulling for because, as you can see, I have a lot of use for her. Okay, so I mean, in terms of Calamity Island, I think that's enough reason for me. But of course, for you guys, if you don't feel like you need an extra Esper for those content, then forget about it. But I also suspect that in the future, they may release more content that would require some of these AoE DPSs. Because there's frankly not a lot of reasons for you to use Espers like Long Mian, even Gaius nowadays, other AoE DPS like Camille for example, right? There is not a reason why you want to use these Espers. So I do feel like eventually they are going to create more content that will make her more viable, more relevant, and that is like down the horizon, right? Sometime later, okay, I expect that this day is gonna come. But anyway, that's it for this video. I wanted to finish this run before I was done, but it is what it is. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed this content. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now that's it, this has been Derek Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.